Hey everyone, Katie and Sergeant Steele here. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that's pretty important to me and how I hobby, and potentially important to a lot of you, especially some folks who are into the content that I create, and that is batch painting. So, when we go to look at painting large groups of models all at the same time, and I'm going to talk about this in a couple different ways. The reason being, the motivators behind this work differently for different people. And that's very important to note. So, I'm going to talk a little bit first about neurotypical practices. So, for people who maybe don't have ADHD or other types of, non-typical, right, neurological conditions, and so they function in a different way, and that does impact how you're motivated to do something like batch painting models. So, to start out with, and to talk about my credibility for this, if you don't know and you're new to the channel, I've painted a lot of models, and I do mean a lot. And that is mostly just my Astra Militarum. So batch painting is something that I frequently do. I will say, in general, I don't usually enjoy batch painting as much, but I'll get to why in a little bit. So I've painted hundreds of Cadians and dozens of tanks and aircraft and vehicles and artillery models, you name it, and I've painted it. And that's not even getting into the numerous amounts of terrain and the other armies. And yes, I do have other armies that are painted that I play. So you can say that I've done a lot of painting and a lot of batch painting. I've done it a lot of different ways too. I've done it a very traditional heavy metal style. That's mostly what I do. But I've also done dry brushing, and I've also done slap chop, and I've also done airbrushing and doing all my highlights via airbrush. I've done oil washes, you name it. I've tried nearly everything in my batch painting techniques, and I've done it a lot. So I wanted to share some of that wisdom with you all because I think this is something that a lot of us, especially in the Warhammer hobby, struggle with. And it is something that is generally not easy to do unless you understand yourself and understand your motivators.
So today's video is sponsored by Divoom Timesgate. This is a really cool LED display product that you can use in your room, whether it's your bedroom, your gaming room, your hobby table, your computer, wherever, in order to display really cool images and also just kind of personalize it for yourself. So this is a 5 LCD display screen with 128 by 128 pixel area for each of those. And it does things such as live counts of social media data. You can put graphics on it. It can detect noise. It's got a microphone. You can set alarms and do so much more with it. You can have it set up to display just one thing across there, such as my YouTube display here, or you can actually set up, customize it where each of the 5 frames displays something different that's custom for you. You can choose between pre-made pixel art or create your own custom art that you put in there, or use some of their pre-made tools such as weather displays or viewer count and subscriber count for your social media. So if you're interested in a Timesgate, check out the link below and see what you think for yourself.
So first, let's talk about neurotypical motivators. So if you're somebody who is motivated in pretty typical ways, there are a number of ways that you can motivate yourself to do batch painting. First is things such as deadlines, right? If you know, say you have an upcoming event and you need to paint 30 infantry in the next month for your event, that is a deadline, and a somewhat realistic deadline depending on how you paint or the level of detail you want to complete your models to. That's also important. So you can set a deadline and that'll help motivate you. The other thing is an obligation. Maybe not only do you have a deadline, but maybe you're doing a doubles event. And so you have a teammate and you told them you were going to base your army in the same way they were going to base theirs. So you have matching armies for the events. Or maybe you're painting the other half of another army and you're playing a team game that way. And you're both playing guard and you're both playing Cadians. And so you got to paint your stuff up to look like theirs. And so an obligation is also another great motivator. You can also work on things like prioritization. So when you're batch painting, you'll be like, oh, I got to paint 30 infantry, but I also want to try to get 6 sentinels done. But before I paint the 6 sentinels, I need to finish the 30 infantry. And so doing prioritization also can help motivate you to complete your batch painting. Um, Another thing is that the task is usually completed based on importance and not necessarily always to yourself, but usually to another external factor as well. So that could be any number of things, such as a few of the examples I just gave, like obligations to a teammate, maybe a deadline because you're a commissioned painter, or perhaps you need to get something done because you have to get all your painting done before you go on, say, like a vacation or a getaway, and you won't have time to complete your models when you get back. So all these things can be very typical motivators to be able to get it done. Now, there are other things that you can do within that to motivate yourself even more. And I'm going to talk about that a little more detail in just a second, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of those typical ones. So keep that in mind. If you want to be motivated and you're more neurotypical, those are things that you can do to set for yourself to do that. Another way you can go at it is, say, using like a timer and actually doing the 1 hour paint challenge. If you've never heard of 1 hour paint, that's where you sit down for 60 minutes every day to paint. Doesn't matter what you're painting, you just paint. But that can be a great way if you're somebody who can keep a nice schedule and can, very ritually do it over and over again, day after day, then you can get a lot done in 1 hour and 7 hours in a week, right? Not counting extra time on weekends or maybe a special evening to get a lot knocked out. And that's another way to get your batch painting done. And I strongly recommend that too. Um, so, with that, that's kind of all the typical stuff. Now, I'm actually going to tell you what I do and what motivates me. I am a person with ADHD. And even worse, I am somebody who's unmedicated for a couple of different reasons. But that's personal to me. And so it is something that I struggle with. And it is a big struggle for me in everyday life, whether it's my family or my job or the hobby. ADHD really has a big impact on me. So it can also be detrimental to being able to do something like batch painting because my brain's not typically wired in a way that would lend itself to being motivated to get something like that done. So for me, I approach it several different ways. Let's go over those. So to dive into it, I am currently batch painting right now, which is a great time to make this video. I've just finished up 3 models, and that are these artillery pieces here in the front. Simultaneously, I'm working on Krieg engineers. I'm working on 4 out of the 5 models of a Krieg command squad, and I'm working on 9 of the 10 models for another Krieg veteran squad. I also have oh, the ADHD in me. Okay. I also have the Christmas special Rattling set. So I got that sniper set sitting here. As you can tell, it's just primed with one color on it. I also have this Cadian Command Squad over here that I'm working on. It's 4 out of 5 of the models. I've already finished one of them. Oops, I'm knocking the turkey around for the rattlings there. I also have off screen here just a little bit. I have this heavy weapons team right here. So I'm also working on that all at the same time. So, and to be honest, it's not the best way to approach things, but I'll talk about why I do it now. So, I am motivated usually by something that is new or something that is interesting, right? So people with ADHD often aren't, you know, met with the same kind of prioritization or being able to have the routine schedule down necessarily or keep to it. And deadlines don't have the same motivators. So for me, it's having to look at something different or new or interesting, or even, especially my favorite thing, challenging. I love a challenge. My brain loves it. That's probably why I love the career that I'm in too, and why I've found myself finally sticking with the career field I'm in. And so, with that, what I do is I get a few things that are similar, but a little bit different. And then I'm going to talk about why I keep a couple things on my desk that are always completely obscure compared to everything else I'm painting. That right now would be the ratlings. And also, I have this commissar over here on the side. Now, the commissar is related to the Krieg somewhat, right? Fair. But in terms of paint colors, in terms of textures and materials, it is completely different. So what I will do is I will start out with all of my base coats, right? So the good thing with the Krieg, they're all that Mechanicus gray. I got them all prime Mechanicus gray, and that was a great motivator. For the Cadians, it's Xandri dust. I started out with Xandri dust, got it done. For everything else, it's black primer. And so I've done those, and then I set them down. Now, when they're done that way, what I do next is I prioritize base colors. And I'll start out by doing things like the Castellan green. So luckily I do have a color that's shared among all these models. So that's a very boring task. But to keep myself motivated in it, I have the green on the carriage. I have the green on the helmets and the shoulder pads of the Krieg. The shoulder pads and the body armor, right, and the other green components for the Cadians are different. They're shaped differently, they have different textures, right? So applying the green to them helps mix it up for me, helps mix it up in my brain, present different challenges, and motivates me differently. So if I find myself in the moment slacking on the Krieg, I'll pop over and just do 2, 3 Cadians real quick, right? And new, interesting, freshens it up. I'm like, oh yeah, wow, that feels nice. Gets that dopamine, and I feel better about it. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm done doing green. I may not have finished the green on all these models yet, but I'm just done doing green. I'm going to jump to my Rhinox hide and start doing my brown leathers. And so then I will do that. But I always, if I switch a color or I switch a technique, I will switch to the models that I am prioritizing most. I can do that. So here, it's the new artillery because I want to be able to film unit reviews for you all as soon as we have the rules for this unit and the codex drops in January. If you're watching this after then, I filmed this video before the codex dropped. So in 2025. So now you know. But I do that so I can prioritize having these ready. And that's something that's hard for me to do. But luckily, this already was a cool, challenging project. If you'll notice, these artillery pieces are not the ones, obviously, because I don't have early access to anything, that are in the new Krieg launch box, right? These are not it. They are the original Forge World models put on the same base sizes that we'll be using for the new artillery pieces. So I have 2 heavy mortars and a quad launcher that I've rebased and I've painted up just for this codex. And I'm very, very excited that I get to continue using these models by rebasing them. So that was a cool thing I got to do that really mixed it up and was like, wow, this is really cool. I also did this in sub-assembly, so I did have the infantry off of these bases, and I was painting them up separately. I was painting the guns separately. I was painting the base separately, and then I glued it all together because this way I could actually reach in there and get it all done. So in case you're wondering, oh, wow, you painted all that wall on the base? No, I painted it all separately, and I used my Ridgrass Games miniature holder to hold those things, and that's great too. So I kept this as my priority. And so if I did want to switch a color, I'm like, oh, I'm tired of doing green. I'm tired of doing gray. I'm going to switch to my brown leathers. I would do my brown leathers on these first. And then if I had leftover paint or felt motivated, I would then apply it to the other models. Okay. Same thing when I went to go shade. When I went to go shade, I could use a couple different motivators there. Sometimes I could actually guilt myself into it. Be like, oh, well, you know, this 9-man squad back here, because I already got one finished. I did a painting tutorial for, and I wanted to get these done. Well, I want to shade them too, but I can't shade them until they have all their base coats. Oh, okay. So I need to motivate myself to get the base coats done. So then I would go through and make sure all my metals were on and all my base colors and everything like that. The islands is done, the transfer's on. And then for those and these, and then I'd be like, okay, so now I'm going to wash both of these. And that's exactly what I did. So I washed the artillery unit models, I washed these models, but I didn't wash the command squad and I didn't wash the engineers. I just wasn't motivated to get that done yet. And I wanted also the dopamine of getting something completed. I wanted to feel that, right? To be able to go, oh, yeah, I'm getting something done. And I did. So I got that done back there. But I didn't do all the highlights on them because I still, once again, wanted to prioritize this. So then I start on my highlights. Now, at this point, I got all these different units in various stages because I've been working on them all simultaneously. And that's part of the mess of my ADHD, but trying to stay motivated. It's very hard. And this is one of the few times I didn't just literally scoop all the models off the table, throw them into a bin or in a box, and then wait to come back to them 2 months later, which I've done repeatedly to this poor Cadian Heavy Weapon Squad. They deserve to be finished, and I will get them done hopefully before the new year, but we'll see. So, with that, I was able to at least through this type of approach in batch painting, right? Where I'm constantly changing how I'm motivating myself by doing a different texture, different surface, different model, switching back to the models I am prioritizing, feeling like I need to complete something, feeling like I don't need to complete something, and I'm just kind of hopping back and forth. That there's enough variety that I'm not getting bored and I want to keep doing it. So, because I want it, when you have ADHD, you gotta have a strong interest in the task, and that needs. You can also have a sense of like competition too. So I was competing with myself in a way. I was like, oh, I'm getting these done. This is just before Christmas, and these are now done. So now I have time to do these other things and get them done. And for me, I'm competing with myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I bet you can't get this done, Shay, and I'm like, oh yeah, well I bet you I can. I bet you I can get this completed before Christmas 2024, right? And so it helps to create like this personal competition for me, and that's a great motivator too. Um, and the other thing is the urgency part. So also going, well, this has to get done immediately, which also is very detrimental for me. It's one of the worst parts about my untreated ADHD. So it does help me where I'm like, I do dive into it. I get really, really zoned in. And so I got look at this. I got all my tufts on here, got the skulls, the rocks, the weathering powders and everything on these because I was like, it has to get done now. It has to get done immediately. It has to be finished. And so I will sit here for 10 or 12 hours on a Saturday in which I'm free, in between other things, right? In between laundry and making meals and so forth, and I'll just try to knock this out. So, but that's a downside where I'll get hyper focused in as well. But it's a great way to get some batch painting done when I do get hyper focused that way, right? Pros and cons of it. The downside is I end up neglecting other tasks and it feels dysregulating to then stop doing this. So that can be a big challenge as well. Um, but with batch painting, this is really one of the things that I love to do is to kind of make sure it stays fresh, but similar enough that I can bounce back between projects and go around and kind of paint different things up. And it does help to keep me motivated. Now I make it to the point, it's very likely that I'll get to a stage in these models and I'm like, I just can't work on any of these anymore. And I will scoop them up off the painting table and I'll put them away and I'll get something else Say one of the models I really, really want to finish right now, they're not on the painting table because I'm trying to stay focused, are my Rough Riders. But I'm trying to stay focused, so I've not put them on the painting table. They have remained in my cabinets. And so I'm just trying to get this infantry knocked out, which will feel really good because I'm very excited about this infantry. I'm also excited about the Rough Riders, but they'll come later, and I'll probably get them done in early January. So for me, batch painting is about keeping that interest, keeping that challenge, and keeping that motivation. And that works for me. Now, we're all different. We're all very different people, and we have different things that motivate us. So you may need to explore yourself what things help to motivate you and pique your interest and be able to paint a bunch of models all at one time. Some people really don't mind doing well, I'm going to paint the green shoulder pads and helmets on 40 infantry models. And I'll sit down and they'll do it. And then they'll sit down the next day. I'm going to paint all the leather pouches on 40 infantry models. And if that works for you, that is awesome. You should probably also be a commission painter because you can probably stay motivated that way. But that doesn't work for me, unfortunately. So, like I said, we're all just a little bit different, and it's important to just explore and try different things. And here just are some crazy scatterbrain techniques that I do that keep me motivated and keep me kind of pushing forward to get this stuff done. Other things that you can do that are a little bit outside the box, maybe motivate yourselves. You can join a painting group or a painting club or a painting challenge. Some things I would strongly recommend if you're interested in online content. Check out the Tuesday night stream on Twitch from Heroes Brush Hour, the hobby heroes. They are just, well, one, they're awesome and they're really amazing. I'll put a link down below to their Twitch channel. And every Tuesday night they paint for 1 hour, and the whole challenge is you have to complete that. If you're on their stream, you finish the model you're painting within the hour, and they have a guest on that they do that with, and they usually compete, and everybody on the Twitch votes for that. So that's kind of a cool thing where you can paint along, and I do that. I tune into their stream and I paint along with them, and it makes me really happy to be able to do that. You could also like go to a painting club. You could start a painting group at your local hobby shop. So maybe you get together on Wednesday nights, like my local club does. Jerry from our local club is currently organizing that. People are getting together and painting together, and that's really awesome. A great way to motivate each other. Does require you to have a travel kit and other things like that. And so I do recommend like a travel wet palette and travel brush case. And from time to time, check the links down below. I'll have links to various things like that that you can get a discount on, because I like to travel and paint also. You could also just maybe use Discord and get a group together and paint, and that could be really important. So I'm going to be setting up a channel on my Discord where you all can hang out together and paint and hobby. And so if that's something you're interested in doing and being able to share tips together as a community, you can set up a space like that there, use the space that I'm creating, and to be able to get together and paint together. In fact, me and some of the folks from my local gaming club used to do that back in the day, and I really loved doing it. I loved hanging out with Ty and some of the other folks from the club on our Discord and painting models together. It was a lot of fun. And so that can be a great way to motivate you to batch paint, because really, batch painting is about painting a lot consistently, right? And if you have something that you're constantly engaging with that gets you to paint, that's a great way to get batch painting completed. That's really one of the best ways to do it. And also, just don't be afraid to do what I do every once in a while, which is just put it on pause, put it on a shelf, and pull something out, do a palette cleanser, do something that interests you for a little bit, and then come back to it in a week or two or a month or two's time. And that's okay. Listen, we're here to enjoy it. So when we're not enjoying it, we should do something a little different, right? And I think it's something important to keep in mind, no matter how much we want to paint several hundred Cadians. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you've been enjoying the content. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. It means a lot to have your all support. If you're really loving the content on the channel, I do now have a membership service, and at certain tiers, it gets you access to the Discord that I'm setting up and putting all the channels and everything in. So feel free, or it's a great way to just even give me a monthly tip. There's a really low one called White Shields for one of the ranks, and you can get in there and just give me basically like a couple US dollars a month and everything like that to support me that way. Or I do have merch, and it is available down links below. So these are all different ways. If you do want to support me, those are the ways I really recommend doing it. And I'm always going to be exploring new stuff. I'm still getting used to being a more known content creator, so I'm figuring out what I'm comfortable doing for and with you all in terms of how you can support me and interact with me. So, but I really, really appreciate it. And all of the awesome stuff that you all say and do for the community and with me. It means a lot. So I'm hopefully this video has helped you out. And if you want to help me out, that's how you can do that. So it's up to you though. But as always, have fun wargaming. And remember, Cadia stands.